You don't have to change, you don't have to do a thing.
WEFM, the new fresh sound.
WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
And we're back with you for another segment of our Activated Mornings program here on WEFM. And at this time, we'll be conducting an interview with UTC Global Balance Fund Limited. And in today's interview, we have with us Mr. Omar Birch-Smith and Disha Lewis. Good morning to Omar and to Disha.
Good morning, Roleza. Nice to see you again. Morning to your listeners.
But
yes, good morning.
No cameras this morning?
Unfortunately, no.
All righty. How are you both doing?
I'm doing well. Happy to be
doing great.
Yes. Again.
Okay.
Yes, and of course, happy to be home, Roleza, and happy to see you again. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome back home, Disha. Welcome back home.
Thank you.
All righty. All right. So welcome back to both of you. And remind our listeners again, what is the UTC Global Balance Fund Limited and who is UTC?
All right. So again, morning to your listeners. So UTC Global Balance Fund, we're a mutual fund, and we actually launched in St. Vincent in November 2024. You might remember that, Roleza. At the time when we launched, we were the first mutual fund to be launched in the Eastern Caribbean. And for your listeners, a mutual fund is simply an investment fund that pools the monies of many different investors and invests in different asset classes across the globe. That product didn't exist before, and typically it's the simplest way for one to start that investment journey, right? We save very well in the Eastern Caribbean and in St. Vincent, of course, but we don't necessarily invest. The Unit Trust Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, who's our parent, would have recognized this around 2021 and decided to launch this fund in the Caribbean. So Unit Trust Corporation is the largest mutual fund provider in CARICOM, managing 10 billion in mutual funds over 44 years of existence, right? Having launched in 1982. So it's a solid company, and we've now launched GBFL in the Eastern Caribbean. Last year, I was here in May 2025, and we come every year to the islands where we've launched to meet with our investors, to spread the word with the general public, not only on the fund, but on financial literacy, because we're very big on public education, Roleza, as one of our mandates, because you can't just sell investment products to the citizens and residents. You have to also provide that financial literacy, which unfortunately is missing across the Eastern Caribbean. It's not just St. Vincent, it's across the Eastern Caribbean, and we've been doing our part to build capacity where that's concerned.
Okay.
All right. Good morning to you, Omar. I know you guys launched in 2024. As you mentioned, you was here last year. What brings you guys back to SVG this year?
So after we launched in St. Lucia first in 2023, we would have come to St. Vincent next, right? Because we felt that the St. Vincent market was ripe. And we returned here in 2025. Like I said, our aim is to go back to every island where we have launched. And we're here again this year. This is the first stop that we've made outside of St. Lucia this year to really meet with investors and to meet with the general public, because folks have heard about GBFL. They are hearing about mutual funds now, but they still don't have enough information. They still don't understand the product quite well. So one of the things that we're doing while we're here, we're hosting a public seminar tomorrow at the University of the West Indies Global Campus on Richmond Hill. It's free to attend. Folks are encouraged to register or on our website. But if you can't register, you could come down and attend. It's from 5:30 to 7 tomorrow evening. And our website is www.utcgbfl.com. And at that seminar, what we'll be doing two things really. We'll be having a conversation about personal finance. So, budgeting, saving, insurance, getting your finances in order. And then we go into explaining and I guess giving more information on investments in general, mutual funds in particular, and on the fund. So folks get to ask questions. You could ask as many questions as possible. And Maka and Roselia, you could actually register for the fund right there if you choose to, right? So we're encouraging folks to come down. Like I said, education is a key mandate of ours, a key pillar of ours, and we believe that tomorrow will be a first step in that direction for folks who've not been exposed to this sort of information before and want to know more about investing and the fund.
Okay. Omar, curious question though. Let's say in the event that persons are unable to make it tomorrow, but they want to hear the information. Would the information, let's say, be placed on maybe a platform that you currently have? Like maybe a social media platform or website so that persons can go and view at a later date?
Yeah, so there's actually a wealth of information on the website as it relates to the product itself. One of the things I encourage folks to do, however, if you want to have a more in-depth conversation, and let's say you aren't able to do this week, I want to remind our listeners that we actually have two institutions that represent us here in St. Vincent and that actually sell the shares in the fund. That's the Bank of St. Vincent and First Citizens. So folks can always reach out to the brokerage team at BOSVG and the team down at First Citizens, Natika and Gavri. They can always provide that information. And of course, you can always reach out to us via our website or via the telephone. But to answer your question, yes, there is quite a bit of information on our social media, UTC GBFL across Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, as well as the website, www.utcgbfl.com. But we encourage people to go into the brokers and have that conversation if you need to.
Okay. All right. So Disha, what is a mutual fund?
Okay. Good morning again, and good morning to my Vinci family. So really, a mutual fund is really just a financial vehicle. And what it does, it pools the funds from a number of individuals as well as institutions, and then invest these funds in investment securities. So when you speak of investment securities, you're speaking of stocks, and stocks are part ownership in different companies. So owning shares, as well as bonds. Bonds are lending government and corporations monies, and money market instruments, right? So the pooling of the funds is what creates this scale that then gives us access to different types of securities, a wider variety of securities, as well as markets such as the international market that one of us may not necessarily have on our own. So that is essentially how a mutual fund works. So there are several types of mutual funds. There are growth funds. They invest primarily in just the stocks. There are income funds. They focus on the bonds primarily. And then there are balanced funds. And balanced funds do a mixture of stocks and bonds. But we at UTC GBFL, we are a balanced fund.
Okay.
All right, and good morning to Disha once again. Question, why should someone consider investing in GBFL?
Okay, so we are in March and the year has pretty much just started. And, one of our common resolutions at the beginning of the year, DJ Maka, is really to, put our finances in order. And this includes whether an investor or someone is looking to start their investment journey, or they're looking to save more or invest. Persons will be looking for the ideal investment product in order to do so or to make this happen. So investing in a mutual fund and investing in a mutual fund such as UTC GBFL actually offers the ideal opportunity to get someone started in investing. And this is because mutual funds, they have several benefits. There's professional fund management, there's diversification, there's steady returns over the medium to long term, as well as affordability and even liquidity. So whatever your medium to long-term financial goals are, and this could include stuff like building your first home, preparing for your retirement, sending your kids off to school, or just preserving the wealth of your money, investing in a mutual fund like GBFL actually offers you that opportunity. And you can actually get started for less than you think. So for a minimum of $100 US, someone can actually start their investment journey.
Okay. So Omar, so when we invest with GBFL, where do you invest?
Right. So as Disha explained, it's a balanced fund. We invest in assets that include stocks and bonds. So it's really, Roleza, not that complicated. So the stocks that we invest in are really in large, fairly liquid, profitable companies, stuff that you've heard of. Many of your listeners are familiar with. So think Apple, Google, think Microsoft, Amazon. So just to break it down further, right? We are users of those companies. So all of us have a smartphone. It's probably an Android phone, or it's an Apple phone. A lot of us have laptops, and we use the Microsoft license. A lot of us will shop on Amazon. So we use these companies, but we don't benefit from them, right? But now you can invest in a fund that actually owns shares in those assets. So you as the investor now actually you benefit from the increase in value in those companies, and you also benefit from the dividends that those companies pay, right? So you're actually going now from users to owners, right? So that's on the equity side. On the fixed income side or on the bond side, we invest in high quality credit-worthy bonds issued by countries, so US Treasuries, countries in the European Union, countries in Asia, Australia, different emerging markets, as well as the Caribbean, as well as bonds issued by corporations as well, some of those same corporations that I mentioned. So some of your folks might be wondering, well, I hope they don't do anything too risky. We don't. So there's no crypto in there, no foreign exchange trading, no real estate. The fund does not invest in real estate. I'm not saying that real estate is a bad investment, but real estate is largely illiquid, right? And it doesn't suit the benefits of our investors. So there's no real estate in there. So it's liquid stocks and bonds that can be traded easily and converted to cash, so that our investors can always receive cash if they need to.
Okay. All right, Omar, how's the fund been performing?
So the fund has done quite well since inception. So we launched in 2023, as I mentioned, but the first full year of operations was 24. And in 2024, we would have delivered a return of 12.76 to investors. So if you had invested $100 in January or at the end of 2023, the value of that would have been $112.76. Compares favorably if you compare it to a savings account where it's 2%, right? Last year, we would have delivered a return of 8.73%. And last year, there was heightened volatility with the Trump tariffs and other policy shifts. So we're talking about a total return for 24 and 25 of 21.5% on average of 10.75%, very close to 11%, right? For the year so far, we're actually just at about 0.25% for the year so far, and that's primarily due to the war in Iran. That has impacted global markets quite a bit. But we continue to navigate those waters and seek opportunities where they are. All right. But over the last 2 years, the fund is averaging 11%. And I must tell your listeners that past performance is no predictor of the future. So I don't want anybody listening to say, well, I listened to this thing and they said 11%. That's not what I'm saying. That's what we averaged for the last 2 years. Just want to make that clear.
All right. And are there risks involved in investing in GBFL, and how are these risks managed?
Yeah, so the risk involved in all investments. Every investment, there is a level of risk. As we know, the higher the risk, the higher the return. As a fund, generally, our principles dictate that we don't take on too much risk. But of course, there is an element of risk that exists in the portfolio. A balanced fund typically provides a moderate level of risk, which is between, obviously, high and low. Our primary risk management tool is diversification. So the old adage applies here, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So that's why, as a fund, we invest in many different assets. So many different asset classes, many different types of assets. But we don't only diversify in terms of the assets, but we look at the markets as well, okay? So yes, the majority of the portfolio is in US markets, but we have global diversification. So we have assets, like I said, all over Europe, all over Asia, as far as Australia, Latin America, and even right here in the Caribbean, right? So there's diversification across the board. Additionally, we are guided by our investment policy statement, which sets key risk limits. It sets key sector limits, asset limits, and those actually allow and ensure that we don't expose the portfolio to too much risk. We do constant monitoring of the assets in the portfolio, constant monitoring of macroeconomic developments locally, regionally, and globally, and we rebalance the portfolio as necessary. So it's quite a robust risk mitigation framework that we pay very close attention to.
All right, I don't know which one of you want to answer this one, but how can folks get started?
Okay, DJ Maka, good question. So there are actually several ways for folks to get started. You can get started by simply signing up on our website at utcgbfl.com, which is a very simple process. And of course, our team, our advisors will also guide you along the sign-up process and answer any questions that you may have. In terms of requirements, your typical banking requirements, so your 2 forms of government-issued ID, your proof of address, as well as your proof of income. Here, as Omar mentioned earlier, we do have 2 broker-dealers, so you can visit the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as for Citizens Investment Services, and sign up there as well. And of course, folks coming down to our seminar tomorrow at the UE Open Campus can also sign up right there. So several ways to get you started.
Okay, and is GBFL regulated, and what are some of the other protections in place for investors?
Yes. So GBFL is licensed and regulated, and our regulator is the Eastern Caribbean Securities Regulatory Commission, the ECSRC, and they're actually the sole regulator of securities business in the ECCU, including St. Vincent, right? So they offer that regulatory oversight. In addition to the oversight by the ECSRC, the law release actually mandates that all of the securities, so all of the stocks I mentioned, all of the bonds, even the cash that we hold, they are held by an independent custodian. And this custodian is the Eastern Caribbean Central Securities Depository, the ECCSD. They're also located in St. Kitts, the same campus as the ECCB and the ECSRC. So there's regulatory oversight, there's independence, and there's also transparency. And even the ECCSD, they also maintain a register of all of the shareholders that are part of the mutual fund.
Okay.
All right, as we get ready to wrap things up, why is it important for individual to invest? I don't know if Omar want to say his part or Disha want to say her part.
Yeah, thanks for that. So, and it's a question that it really gets the conversation going, right? So when you think of us here in the Caribbean, we save very well. We have over 30 billion EC dollars in excess savings, right? I don't know if you can wrap your head around that. That's more than 10 billion US. In St. Vincent alone, there's close to 4 billion EC in savings. So we save very well, whether we do it in a bank, in a credit union, or SUSU. And I know a lot of people still believe in those. We have that good muscle memory, those good habits, right? Of putting something aside for a rainy day. But that's just the first step, folks. It really is just the first step. If you're thinking about preserving the value of what you've saved, and if you're thinking about turning what you've saved into actual wealth, you can't just simply continue saving. You need to invest. And you might be saying, well, explain. So we know that we get 2% on savings in a financial institution. We get nothing on things like SUSU or if the money's under your bed. But we have inflation that's persistently around 5%, right? For the last 6 years since the pandemic, that's what we've seen in the region. So for every $100 you have in the bank, every year you lose $3 on that, right? Because what cost $100 last year costs $105 this year. And your $100 last year is worth $102 this year in the bank. So when we think about that $5, that $3, sorry, that we're losing on every $100, think about $1,000. You're actually losing $30 on that. Think about $10,000, you're losing $300. And if you're lucky enough to have $100,000 in savings, then you're actually losing $3,000 every year in value. That's quite a bit of money to be losing. So if you invest in a mutual fund like ours, say, and you can average 11% per year, you are not only preserving the value of your wealth, you are actually going beyond inflation. And that's when your money starts to grow. And you're not only doing that because of the returns, but you also have to factor in the impact of compounding returns. So the return that you're making on your initial investment or your consistent investments is also making returns. And that's why investing is important. Because the trick to wealth building is not linear, it's not a straight line. It's actually a slight curve that starts to sharpen towards the end and has the impact of compounding. So before, people would say, well, boy, that's for rich people. That's people that have money, they have land, their parents left something for them. That's not for me, right? But now with just 100 US, you can start that journey. And the beautiful thing is when you invest with that first 100 US, the minimum thereafter is 20. So you do what you can manage, right? So you start with 100, you go on to 20, and then you say, you know what? I can do a little more. I got a little raise at work, or I got a back pay, or I got a bonus. I can do a little more. You'll start to see 5, 10 years. You'll be surprised what you've accumulated, guys.
And you won't say there is a cutoff age limit to start saving, right? I know the younger the better, but
yeah, I mean, obviously the younger the better, yes, but the best time. So the best time to invest was yesterday, but the right time to invest is now. Okay. You can't change the past, you can't go back, no matter what you try. You can't. All right. So don't think about what you should have done or could have done. Think about what you can do. And the right time is always now. So if somebody's listening to this and they're 60 or 65 and they think, well, I'm retired, inflation is battering you as well. So you can invest. I mean, you don't invest all your savings because you need money for medication, for any emergencies, a car breakdown, a pipe at home busted. But you too need to think about, well, all right, let me preserve some of what I have set aside for retirement in an investment product. And of course, young people, now is the time. Just get started and watch yourself, put yourself in the best position for retirement later on.
Okay. So remind us again of tomorrow's event, when, where, and what time.
All right. So tomorrow down at the UE Open Campus on Richmond Hill. Like I said, it's free to attend. We encourage folks to register on the website, www.utcgbfl.com. If you aren't able to register, feel free to come down, bring a friend, right? So that's tomorrow, 5:30 to 7, UE Global Campus. And we're looking forward to as many people as possible.
Okay. All right. So Omar and Disha, we thank you very much for joining us this morning. And of course, we're hoping for a massive turnout at tomorrow's event.
Yes. Thank you, Roleza. Thank you, DJ Maka.
Thank you.
All right.
Nice seeing you guys again. Take care.
Same here. Right. Take care until.
Bye-bye.
And that concludes our interview this morning with UTC Global Balance Fund Limited. We'll be right back with more Activated Mornings here on WEFM.
3, 2, 1. WEFM is